Howdy y'all, welcome back. Recently, I've been contemplating taking the trip over the border to visit Canada, and one of the places that has often stood out to me was Manitoba, Canada. Today, I've dove into the Historical Society of Manitoba as well as a few other related Canadian historical forums in hopes of bringing you the oldest and rarest images ever taken in this monumental and historically rich portion of North America. As we dive into these images, dated from 1879 to more modern times, I will briefly go through the currently accepted history of Manitoba. Enjoy! As far back as 10,000 years ago or earlier, we have First Nations tribes who occupied the exposed lands of southwestern Manitoba, Canada, including Turtle Mountain. This is said to have occurred directly after the last major ice age. The First Nations left behind numerous artifacts, including pottery shards, arrowheads, copper, petroglyphs, pictographs, and vast evidence of agriculture, including some of the earliest documented cultivation of maize in Canada. According to modern scholars, along the Winnipeg River near White Shell Park in southeast Manitoba could be found one of the largest concentrations of ancient petroforms, which has led many of these scholars to conclude that this area in Manitoba was the center for trade for the indigenous people of the region, which included the Cree and the Sioux, amongst many others. Some historians even claim White Shell Park could have served a purpose beyond being a massive trade center and could have actually been a place for education, similar to a university for the indigenous people of Manitoba. Beyond this, we also have over 2,000 years of documented mining of quartz crystal in northern Manitoba, said to have been used to make elite arrowheads, among other things. In the year 1611, Henry Hudson is documented as the first explorer to set the path to reach Manitoba, sailing through what is now called Hudson Bay. The first explorer to truly see and document Manitoba is said to have been Sir Thomas Button, who was a Company of the Merchant Discoverers of the Northwest Passage member, hoping to find a direct route to China. It wasn't until Henry Kelsey, traveling from Hudson Bay to the prairies, documented the many bears, buffalo, and other valuable animals in Manitoba that led to an increased interest in colonizing the land. By 1669, the British ship Nonsuch sailed into Hudson Bay and beyond, leading to the formation of the Hudson's Bay Company. The British gave the Hudson's Bay Company complete control of the area and the waterways. York Factory was founded in 1684, followed by an assortment of forts being founded throughout Manitoba by both the British and the French merchants, traders, and soldiers. The name Manitoba and its etymology is still up for debate and is not universally agreed upon by modern-day scholars. Interestingly, the most thoroughly supported root for the name comes from Cree, where Manitoba means the Strait of Manitou. Manitou is the fundamental and spiritual life force amongst most Algonquin tribes. Manitou is an omnipresent and constantly manifesting force in all things, and the term Manitou was already present across nearly every Algonquin tribe at the time of early European contact. By the end of the 7 Years' War in 1763, Great Britain had secured the land that would become Manitoba. A large majority of the waterways and the rivers in Manitoba actually eventually flow north, not south or east, as is commonly presumed. The Hudson Bay Archives are located in Manitoba, which documents the vast history of fur trade throughout Canada and beyond. During this time, in the mid to late 1700s, most of the land around Hudson's Bay, including large portions of Manitoba, was known as Rupert's Land. By 1812, Lord Selkirk of Scotland had developed the first agricultural communities near present-day Manitoba, leading to additional conflicts between the Hudson Bay Company and its rival, the Northwest Company. Manitoba River was said to have been named by the Cree long before European settlers arrived to this area. By the year 1870, Rupert's Land, as it was known, was officially ceded to Canada with the Manitoba Act of 1870. This transformed Rupert's Land and the surrounding community into the province of Manitoba. The original province of Manitoba was an almost perfect square shape, roughly 1/18 of the province's current size. As the Manitoba Act of 1870 called for protection of Indigenous land, these protections were largely ignored as Anglo-Canadians flocked to Manitoba, eventually displacing many Indigenous as well as French-speaking people. The borders of Manitoba were expanded in 1881 and again in 1889. Manitoba grew to its current size in 1912. The Manitoba Schools question was a cultural deterioration and public outcry which occurred in and around Manitoba in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. During this time, Catholic and Protestant schools often disagreed and were separated culturally. A debate over French or English ideals in the area was then brought to the forefront. Outstandingly, the photographs we are looking at and have looked at today are dated to roughly 1879 through roughly 1930, with a few more modern images sprinkled in to create the dichotomy of past and present. A large portion of these images are dated to 1903 or earlier. To put this into detail, we're told until roughly the end of the 1870s, the majority of Europeans in Manitoba were residing in forts or fortified trade posts. It wasn't until roughly the late 1800s that communities of settlers, not soldiers or merchants, arrived to the Manitoba land. This means, for lack of a better term, all the buildings depicted and showcased in these photographs should be no more than 20 to 25 years old, with many of the buildings being new or close to new in these images. What's remarkable in this narrative in particular is that I could not find any construction photographs of any of these epic old world style buildings. We know photography was well established in both French and British culture by 1870, having been on display at World's Fairs in both countries decades earlier. What's shocking to me, and most likely shocking to you as well, is that we have barely any photographs of this landscape as it was being quote-unquote discovered and as it was being settled. The technology was well known by 1870 and almost universal by the year 1900, and yet in the province of Manitoba, we have almost zero photographs depicting the miraculous and rapid growth. For a region that was said to have been settled so late, it's shocking we don't have more images depicting the stages of this settlement. However, I think I'm going to wrap up the current narrative there, and I'd love to hear your opinion on Manitoba down below. Many of these photographs show old world style architecture, complete with the raised entrances, elaborate yet congruent architecture, electricity and telegraph lines, even trolleys and streetlights. And my favorite aspect is how many of these buildings also have these raised entrances. I think that's what stands out to me most. Some of them have entrances that are 15, 20, 25 feet off the ground level at the time of these initial photographs. Many of the buildings we look at today are also not still standing. I'd say about 30% of the structures we see in these photographs still stand today, if not less. I will leave some links down below, hopefully allowing you to view these images if you'd like in more detail and view many more images related to Old World Manitoba. Does the rather relatively recently founded city of Manitoba, roughly 150 years old or less, show the same sort of evidence of the old world that we see in the quote-unquote much older, much more well understood European cities? I certainly see some similarities, but most of all, I see a lot of empty space surrounding the earliest buildings and the earliest photographs of Manitoba. Many empty streets, many streets still covered in dirt, buildings on unpaved roads, seemingly placed in the middle of nowhere until the greater city had time to form around it. Either way, what we have today is an intricate and never before seen collection of photographs of Manitoba, which I was eager to share with you. So I'd love to hear what you thought in the comments down below. Let me know which image stood out to you the most. Check out my YouTube profile and feel free to support the channel if you'd like to. Please like, share, and subscribe because that is the best way to get this information and to get these photographs out to people who may not have seen them or heard about this history before. And most of all, share all of your ideas about Old World Manitoba, Canada, because I love reading them in the comments and I love seeing other things to dive into. So I can't wait to hear from you. I can't wait to talk to you on the next video. And I thank you so much for being here. Cheers, y'all.